and I'd like kind of a show of hands. How many of you already have a blog?
We have more than one blog, should we put more than one hand?
Hands, feet, yeah, fingers, toes. So it looks like almost everybody has a blog. And how long is, like, a year? Anybody more than a year? More than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
I don't know.
7.
I can't remember.
Okay, so back about 8 years ago, I attended an Office Depot online seminar. And they were talking about using blogging for blogger.com. And so I created 3 blogs in that weekend, don't know why. And then I got bored because nothing happened over a year, and I just got distracted and didn't do any more blogging. And last November, so less than a year ago, I started looking at blogging as a way of generating international business. So I started thinking, what can I do? Because my Elite Leads business that I started 19 years ago in November, Sally's a member, Nina's been a member, and I think you visited, but you actually never came, did you? Okay, that's not too bad. So what I do is typically take a business person and teach them business skills and how to build at least 50% of their business by referral so they don't have to work as hard. I don't know if you know this, but in the United States, we have now, it's 99% of all business tax forms are entrepreneurs. That's fewer than 50 employees in a company. That's solopreneurs. And for the first time, starting 7 years ago, 87% of our economy was driven by those entrepreneurs, which is phenomenal because it hasn't been like that since prior to 1950. So all the big conglomerates came up and now they're all going away, aren't they? So with all the layoffs, we have 11% unemployment rate in the Bay Area, which I don't think is realistic, but if you look at the money being spent and everything else, we're actually in a better position than what the numbers show. Most people don't realize this, but you only get little pieces of the news. So I like to dig in and get the rest of the news, right? So I like to know what else is going on. Did you know that we have increased 1 million people in population in the Bay Area in the last year and a half? 1 million new people. There's 8.5 million people living in the Bay Area. By the end of December 2012, we're going to end up with 12 million people.
No way.
Living in our same space. So I went.
Our house prices are going to go up, right?
Yes, the house prices are going to go up, but sell before the end of 2012 and get out of Dodge to a place where you enjoy living. You know, you don't have to have all that extra traffic. I go to Concord rarely. I live in San Ramon, and every once in a while somebody asks me to go to Concord. And the last time I went, it took me 3 times to get through each light, and there's about 8 lights from Willow Pass Road to where I needed to go. It was ridiculous. An hour and a half before I could go less than 6 miles. I mean, unbelievable. So imagine when we end up with 12 million people here, 3.5 million more people. That's ludicrous, right? So what I started thinking is, how can I expand? So I love speaking. I was telling the story earlier. My very first speaking engagement was August 1992. It was at a Lions Club meeting, and my mentor took me there and kind of tricked me just before we finished eating. He said, by the way, you're the speaker today. Because I told him for an entire year, I don't want to speak. I grew up stuttering. I didn't want to put myself in that uncomfortable position. And he kept saying, you've got to get through all of these barriers that you have, because people are going to be kind, they're going to be interested in what you have to say. He would come to my Elite Leads meeting, and the people came to me, that was one thing, but if I had to go to them, it was scary. It was absolutely frightening because I didn't have a point of reference, right? I didn't know them. I didn't have key information on how I could engage with them, so that made me really nervous. So after a year, I had a young woman come up to me and she said, I had to come back and thank you because what you told me 6 months ago saved me from shutting my business down. She had a cartridge replenishing business, and she was running all over the place every day, pickup, delivery, replenishing at night, working 14, 15 hours a day. And after I told her, I didn't know what I told her until I asked, but I told her, you have to quantify your business. whether you realize this or not, all of you are in business for yourself, right? And you have to look at what you're doing on a daily basis that will put you in a position to have that freedom, right? Do you all know what it takes you to break even every month, right? What if you break that down into a daily requirement, right? So if you end up knowing that you have to make $100 a day, $500 a week, just to break even, or $500 a day. I mean, I know people that their overhead is $15,000 a month. That's scary, right? So what do you have to do to actually break even to make things work? And then everything over that, you need to put it away. So we get into this habit of spending everything. Did you remember hearing about a year ago that the average person in the United States spends 1% over what they have earned, like what they take home every month? Today it's 1% less. Isn't that amazing? So we're just starting to get the hang of this thing and start to take care of ourselves.